Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I want to talk about fear, but specifically, again, fear in relation to Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. So the fear in here is being too scared to give yourself the permission to write because you were scared because there's an incredibly long list of things that you could be afraid of. So, afraid of having no talent, being rejected or criticised, that there's no market, that somebody else already did it better, that everybody else already did it better, and somebody will steal your ideas. And that's just a few of the first ones off of this list. Today, we're going to talk about fear. We're going to stride forward. As a writer, I'm not going to lie, I have experienced a lot of fear in my time. I'm a naturally scared person. Everyone will tell you this about me. My mother calls it being sensible, but we all know it's not that. There have been plenty of times since I properly started focusing on writing that I have stopped myself writing because of the main fear being that I'm not good enough, and the other fear being that somebody else already did it better. And usually it'll happen because I've read something else and I've noticed that there are some similar themes or ideas in there. Sometimes that has really helped me because, as I mentioned in my inspiration video, I have no problem in coming up with ideas. So if I've seen the ideas somewhere else done better than I could do it at the time, then that kind of gives me free rein to be like, well, I'm sorry to that idea, I'm sorry, we're not going to be writing that story, or we're going to focus on this other story instead. I don't think that fear is ever a good thing when it comes to your creativity. That is one of the points that Elizabeth Gilbert and I agree on. Since I read this book, and since I began writing the second Doris book, in which I decided to let go of all of my fears that people wouldn't like the themes and the ideas that were in there didn't really fit with this comedic novel I was writing, I didn't care because I decided to write the book that I wanted to write. That was a direct influence of having read this book, because even though I'd been told much and more before times by teachers, my fellow writers, other creators, other craft tech, that you cannot get anywhere with fear and you just have to write stuff down. It wasn't until after I'd read this book and I'd had such a terrible time at the start of the year that when I was writing this book and I'd come to something that was stopping me, I would either, if it was a sentence, then I would just push on and I would write exactly what I wanted the sentence to say and fix it later on. Or, if it was in terms like a bigger plot point, I didn't mind going away and taking some time to figure out how to juggle that plot point and how to fit it in. But I was constantly focused on it and knew that that was the direction we were going in, that everyone was coming along for this ride, we were going in this direction, it was going to be written, we just all needed to work together to write it. Yes, I'm talking about creativity and inspiration again. Yes, we're going extremely spiritual, metaphysical, and my grandmother would be extremely thrilled about this. In agreement with Elizabeth Gilbert, you need to give yourself permission to write. And I'm going to take this as you need to give yourself permission to write badly. You have to let go of the fear. What she says in here is that fear has to work with you. You have to work with fear because fear is always going to be there. It's you, it's creativity, it's inspiration, it's fear. She usually just sticks to creativity, but I'm throwing inspiration in there as well. It's like you and creativity are in the front seat of the car and fear is in the back seat, not allowed to make any choices at all. That is the analogy that Gilbert uses, and it's a very good analogy here because the fear is never going to go away. During the writing of my second book, because I have turned into a very needy writer as of late, I was constantly asking my friend Lindsay, who was the only person reading this book at the time, for reassurance, because especially when bringing the book out, I needed the reassurance that I was actually bringing something out that was good. Because whilst, again, I am proud of that book, whilst I'm trying to get everybody to read the book because it has older characters, it's a comedy, it has working class people in it, and I'm very proud of it. I keep saying I'm proud of it because I am. I needed that reassurance. Having people there to build you up is a great thing. Even if you're a terrible person like me, sometimes you can get extremely fearful. I'd gained a lot of fear and sadness between the writing of Our Doris and Indisputably Doris. After Our Doris, even though I was having great reviews off my friends, off reviewers that I'd met through the internet, and I was getting good feedback from the librarians, writers that I was meeting, everything was going well with that first book and I wasn't getting a bad comment, and I needed the bad comment. Yet I had become that fearful because people were telling me that the book was good. I did not know how to recreate it because Our Doris was frenzied. Most of that book was created with me writing stuff down, with No idea. It was just, I had this voice in my head that just came out on the page extremely well, and I am extremely thrilled for that experience and hope that one day I can replicate it in future. That isn't necessarily what happened with the second book, because I took the break, and when I came back to it, it was me and these characters working together to create a different sort of comedy, a different sort of ensemble piece, and that came with letting go of the fear, and sometimes using the fear and cultivating it, because it changed from this fear of not being able to match what we did with the first book into this fear of never getting the book finished. And whilst I was writing slowly, and whilst I was really working to make this book great and make this book something that people would enjoy, the fear of the book never being finished pushed me to finish the book. And that is the way that I used fear this time. And what I want to say here, what I want to discuss about fear, is that fear is going to be there for every creative person. It can be fear that you aren't writing good enough. When you are published, it can be that people aren't going to respond to the book well. When you are published, it can be that people aren't going to turn up to your events, which has happened a lot now and has allowed me to take my time off and take time back for just me and my words to create again. I'm just saying, you don't need to let go of your fear, you don't need to forget that fear exists. Welcome fear, talk to fear. As Elizabeth Gilbert says, have discussions with your creativity, have discussions with your inspiration, have discussions with your fear. In fact, maybe that's even something I will recommend. I would recommend now that you go out and you write a letter to creativity, and you aren't saying what you, or even talk to creativity, but write a letter to your own creativity if you are a creative person, and say what you want to achieve with the help of creativity this year. I'm not talking about getting published, these aren't the goals I mean like sitting down and writing the book you've always wanted to write, and then do another letter to fear and discuss with fear why you're breaking up with fear. Write a long letter to fear, breaking up with it, and tell them it's not me, it's you, and draw a line under it, because that is the only way that you are ever going to be able to move forward as a creative person. Fear will always be there, but you have to learn to forget about it. It's going to be an ever-present antagonist, but it's going to be one that's it's got to be more of a niggle than a wound. Do feel free to discuss fear and how it's impacted on your creativity, or whether you manage to live a fear-free lifestyle, which is something that I would heartily like to cultivate. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.